All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to the Tellor Core Chat,
Oh, welcome. Sorry, I wanted to say hello too.
April 28th, 2020. Another week here in lockdown. Last week was Tech Talk, so we have a few things to go over. First one, last week, if you guys didn't catch the YouTube video, we had the auto call. So the Alliance of Decentralized Oracles had its first public meeting. So it was sort of emceed by Adon from Witnet. The band guys were there, us, and then Hadrian from iExec. It was kind of us four who are all sort of agreeing to adopt the standard right at the beginning, and hopefully we can get some other decentralized oracles on board. But we're taking some comments, finalizing that EIP. So if you're into that kind of thing, definitely go give it a watch. But there's some cool questions in there too. We're working with some other oracles in the space and just how we sort of standardize and make it easier for users to integrate with any oracle in general. It was a good conversation, and it was definitely good to sort of get that off the ground.
Yeah, please watch it and share. It's good for the entire space, not just for us.
Yeah. Other things, we've been busy with lots of things. Brenda gave a talk this morning, the National Science Foundation. To all those people, it went really well. She did great. And then I've been working on a lot of Tellor miner upgrades as well. So probably over the next few weeks, we're going to be pushing out a big miner upgrade. We're going to be updating a lot of the PSRs, making really robust data feeds, and even just kind of some of the ones that we can sort of handle. So we're going to be doing more things like taking a median of even more exchanges. We're going to be taking volume weighted, time weighted averages. We're going to be doing even end of day prices. So you can pull the price of Bitcoin at midnight anytime throughout the day. So that way you can just have this daily update of prices. And what that does is that even if, let's say, it takes 3 hours because your oracle is sort of broken or something, like the whole network clogs up, you still get the price at midnight. So if you want to have that kind of thing in your system, you'll be able to do it. So if you're into that kind of thing, let me know if you want to test it out. If you're a miner, whenever I push it out, so we're going to push out the release, and then the way that it's going to work is we're going to switch over all at the exact same time, and that's written into the code. So I'm going to give you guys like probably 2-3 weeks to just go download the new code. You download the new code, you shouldn't notice anything changing, and then the code will automatically switch to using the new PSR, so submitting the new values at a given time. If you don't update, you risk getting slashed. So make sure that you do that. Make sure that your miners get updated. If you need more time or anything like that, just let me know. Other things, if you're bored and sitting there in your apartment during quarantine and you need something to do, the Tellor bounties are still available. So if you want to do some dev work, if you want to do some writing, design work, anything you think Tellor needs, if you guys want to get it done, we're happy to kind of give you some TRB to get that moving. And last, for kind of the announcements, this Friday is DeFi Discussions. It's an event thrown by Dystopia Labs. It's a virtual conference, and I'll be speaking at it. So I think my conversation is at 9 p.m. Eastern time on Friday. But literally all day, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, there are talks. So just talks from everyone in the space. So it should be really good. I'm going to be kind of giving a revolutionary themed talk on oracles that are currently being used in DeFi. And it should be a good one because I think the Coinbase oracle is coming shortly after me. So I got to go and then kind of warm up the audience for them. So be sure to kind of log in and watch it. And definitely, if you are there, yeah. So the way that it works, I get 20 minutes to talk and then 10 minutes of questions. So make sure that you guys ask some good questions, and I'm not just sitting in there in awkward silence. So Okay, so I think that's about it for kind of the announcements. But yeah, it's been a fun last few weeks, and it looks like the crypto markets have completely recovered from Black Thursday, or almost, and it's kind of nice to see that we're sort of beyond that, and we're starting to move forward again as a space. So, Mike,
Yeah.
over to you.
Well, I think there's a couple of additional tidbits that we could mention that we're working on as well that I think people will enjoy. One is we're going to get an animated video about how Tellor works, which we're excited about. We're working on the script for that now, and we have an animator that is going to get started ASAP on it, and that'd be really cool for us to give to you guys and for you guys to share around. Um, there's a lot of visual learners out there, and the more that people really get how Tellor works, I think the more that it'll be attractive. Also, we're working on getting a price feed up, a place for where people can see Tellor actually working. We've talked about Tellor Scan, and some of you guys have seen their current Tellor Scan or whatever, but we feel like we just need a simple place that people can see price updates that are happening and have been happening since August, and a way to interact with tipping and sending TRB to certain requests. So that's gonna be really cool, and it'll be simple, and hopefully we get it up actually really soon. So look forward to that, and hopefully we have another update for you guys next week on that. Do you want to just jump into the questions? But that's it. That's all I got.
Definitely.
Okay, let me pull them up here. All right, first one's about Polkadot. Is Polkadot going to open at way too high a market cap for its own good?
I don't know Polkadot in particular, but I'm guessing since most tokens open at way too high of a
Right.
market, yeah,
Gonna look like all of them.
yeah. So
Yeah.
that's all. That's all I can say on that. I know Polkadot. It's really tough to compete with Ethereum at the moment. You're gonna have a really really hard time competing on the layer one level with Ethereum, and unless somehow you got to get it, actual developers and projects building on you, and it's really really tough. So hopefully
Yeah.
they can figure it out and move in some different direction. But yeah, I mean, it's like it's getting to be like competing with Bitcoin at this point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I guess I would say I don't know the details of how the Polkadot or how Polkadot is handling this, but my guess is they'll do really well for their investors, and they'll probably make raise a lot of money, and people that aren't as fast or as in the know aren't going to do as well. And whether or not that's going to be good for them long term, I guess we'll have to see. Is Ethereum doing what Bitcoin should have done? It depends on like what, smart contracts?
Yeah, I don't know. It's tough to say. I think there's always,
Doing so many things differently.
yeah, I mean, I think there's problems with both. I think either one you've had sort of shifting narratives throughout the years, and how you feel, I guess, about which way they went would kind of be how you felt about the narrative that they're going for. I was originally a big fan of Bitcoin as sort of this payment mechanism. So where, you would actually use it for anonymous and fast and cheap transfers, and it sort of failed to do that. So they shifted into more of the store of value chain. And, Ethereum, if you remember, was sort of supposed to be this world computer originally, and then it shifted into, now it's, I guess, money Legos or a place for DeFi or something like that. So there's kind of the shifting narratives. It's really hard to say whether or not it's a success. Part of it feels like you're trying to find a use case for this technology. So there's like pros and cons to each. But I would say, like, as long as I would hope that in the future what we see more of is more develop. I think Ethereum is doing a better job in a lot of ways and that we're sort of developing the tech to try and make the narrative better versus just having the tech and then changing the narrative to fit the tech, if that makes sense. So.
Yeah. I think it's cool that they both are different in the sense that like Ethereum is actively working on bettering itself and all the difficulties that come with that, but all the possibilities that come with that as well. Whereas Bitcoin, some Bitcoiners would say that the killer feature of Bitcoin is the fact that it won't upgrade, it won't ever change, and that's what makes it special. And I kind of dig that too. So it's good to have both. Our 24-hour volume is now totally detached from reality. Our volume equals our market cap due to the number of fake volume exchanges we're listed on. Have you considered applying to a bigger real volume exchange to return some sense of balance?
I would say that finding you can't win there, because if you apply to a really big real volume exchange, then other really big fake volume exchanges also list you. Even some of the big exchanges, like it's really, really hard to say what real volume is here. Super, super hard. Even on some of the big, what you would consider legitimate exchanges. I mean, this is actually a question. So coming from the traditional finance world, like you had this problem where, so like it's actually illegal to put fake volume on traditional exchanges, but there was such a problem with high frequency traders in the market that you actually didn't know what was real volume because the price would move up, say, a few basis points, and then all the liquidity would disappear really, really fast. And they're like, the markets are just they're myths. There's no sort of actual orders there, and there were even those weren't even fake orders. Those were just ones that disappeared really quickly because the people weren't actually trading on conviction. They were just making markets and trying to do arbitrage opportunities. So yeah, I mean, don't look at kind of volume numbers. In a lot of ways have sort of lost any sort of meaning in whether it's the traditional finance world or even in the especially in the crypto world, since there's no even regulations on it. So yeah, I would just sort of ignore some of the messages that they send, just because they can sort of be so easily manipulated. The only volume numbers that really matter would be what can you actually trade this at, and what can you actually trade this size at, and it's a much, much smaller number than most people would like to admit, even for big coins like Bitcoin or Ethereum.
Yep. And we don't have $500,000 to apply to some of these big real volume exchanges as well. So, say a couple repeat questions I'm going to skip. Okay, so Tellor seems to be falling behind in the Oracle race. What is being done to keep pace with the front runners?
We are,
and I would say that I would disagree with the premise of this question entirely. That there is a race or anybody's falling behind it. I mean, certainly Chainlink has, they're winning in the attention race, but that's not a race that we necessarily want to focus on. I think if you feel like there's an Oracle race and we're falling behind, I think you're probably falling prey to some false narratives on Twitter, and I would recommend getting off of Twitter for a little while. That's how I feel.
Yeah, I mean, this is sort of like in 2017, whenever you had like the layer one races, with all the different coins, and it's basically like, if you ever felt like there was a race at any point, like it was wrong. There was basically one person was sort of building it right and slowly getting adoption, and that was Ethereum. Everybody else like didn't win. Like, no matter how high their market caps got in the short term, it just sort of failed to come about. And that's, I think you're going to see the exact same things here. What I think
companies pushing there was a race.
You broke up there, Mike, or am I breaking up?
Sorry, it's both of us, so I'll just try not to talk over you.
Okay. Yeah, no, I mean it's just to try and not look at it as much of a race. It's really hard to pick it out, but it's trying to just stay true over time is really what's going to matter. This was I remember in like 2013 when I'm trading, everyone was like, "Oh, Bitcoin's going to be dead because Feather Coin or Pure Coin or Name Coin is going to overtake them, or they're beating Litecoin in the race to be second." And it was just it doesn't matter. Like it's so minuscule, and you're just fighting over pennies and scraps. Like the real thing is you have to sort of position yourself to just be here throughout the bear markets and slowly just get adoption. And I think looking at it in chunks of multiple year periods even is sort of better than if you look at it from a day-to-day crypto Twitter perspective. You're just going to drive yourself crazy.
Yeah. Another repeat. Okay, so Nick, can you talk about token velocity as it relates to price, etc.?
So I don't even think it's a token question. I mean, this is like a money question. So like it's price equals money times velocity is the basic equation. So if you have 100 tokens and they're moving around really, really fast, or then what happens is that they're actually worth less. Because or yeah, maybe I got the equation wrong, but so if the tokens are moving around a whole lot more than or no, that's prices. I did get it right, but if the tokens are sort of moving around a lot more, they're actually worth less. So you can think about Ethereum you can think about it more like a circulating supply. So if you have 100 Ethereum tokens, but only 95 of them are just being held in somebody's cold storage wallet, then everybody who's actually using it has to just pay the price of those 5 that are circulating. So the velocity of it, how fast things are changing, that you would have a low velocity there because there's not a whole lot of supply that's actually circulating. But if everybody's trading and changing hands a lot, then it's sort of easy to get your hands on it, and you actually can have a much lower price. So I think that sort of answers the question. But a lot of this just comes down to real demand. You want to see real demand in the system. You don't want to see just holders, because if you just have holders and if you're just a speculative asset, then what happens is that velocity can be very, very volatile in your system, because the demand comes and goes with the crypto Twitter sentiment, versus what you actually want is you have a stable group of people, thousands of people who want to buy your coin on a daily basis to actually use it. And then the speculators are a much smaller class that are sort of just there to provide some liquidity. But in crypto land, we have it completely reversed, where you have a very small amount of users who have to pay a whole lot to buy it from these speculators. And so prices are very, very inflated because you have a whole bunch of speculators who are just sort of holding it and not actually, because if you're actually using it, you don't care about holding it for the price to go up. You just want to buy it to actually use it. So anyway, I think that answers the question.
Pretty good. What are your favorite podcasts, crypto or non-crypto?
Mike?
I have to give a shout out to the Joe Rogan Experience. Longtime listener, so is Nick. We both love that. I would say, in addition, there's one called Hardcore History by Dan Carlin, which I'm a huge fan of. And I'm not a huge podcaster, obviously Epicenter and those kind of things too. I listen to some sports ones, teams that I follow, like Arsenal or the Pittsburgh Steelers. So that's it.
Yeah, I mean, I just watch I watch Epicenter. That's kind of the traditional blockchain podcast that I listen to, and then usually the other ones, like I'll usually log on if I like who the speaker is. There's really a whole lot of podcasts that are out there, so you can almost just follow more so the speakers that you like rather than any sort of listening to the podcast. I mean, so usually though, like with my podcasts, I sometimes it'll be crypto related, but now that I've been in the space for so long, I sometimes I just need a break. Like, so you try and listen to something completely non-crypto related.
Yeah, amen. Why didn't the professor coins win?
Yeah, Mike and I were chatting about this one. You could put in why didn't the ICO coins, the VC coins, the professor coins, none of them have really sort of won. It's just by professor coins, people usually mean, so there's been a handful of coins that have been run by these PhD guys, then they raise hundreds of millions of dollars to do these coins that then they fail to sort of deliver. I'd say it's not. I'd say it's sort of a false premise that they failed, because sort of all the coins, a large number of coins have done that, where you raise a whole bunch of money on these really false promises. The only difference between the professor coins are that they have these figureheads with nice resumes. It's it's just, I think that narrative is proving wrong, in a large part. The pieces that we're starting to see that Tellor's really been trying to build on, it's what actually makes a protocol successful in the long run. And you look at like the Bitcoins, the Ethereums of the world, even like like I like Monero has been relatively successful, or which ones have been there over time and have gotten a little bit of real world usage. And it's, you distribute your token pretty broadly, or at least semi quickly. You make sure that you have an ecosystem of people that can develop on it openly. And it usually, compared to other things, you want to sort of start out relatively low in the market caps. Ethereum started out way before all of this. And because the problem that you see with a lot of these VC or professor coins is that you have these gigantic valuations of hundreds of millions of dollars, and then there's you just lose all incentive. I mean, it's just, once you're there, you have to work really hard to deliver, to justify that. It breaks down really quickly, especially whenever, I think we've talked about in the past, Mike and I, where whenever you have a valuation that is that high, like even the chain links of the world and things like that, a lot of your time and effort has to be put into sort of managing these expectations, almost like you're running a Fortune 500 company, where like you don't want to say anything wrong, and you have to have all these partnerships to placate the speculators. And it gets sort of exhausting. So I think, whenever you're early, before you launch and before you have kind of that mass adoption of users, the lower the market cap you can have and still maintain your base, the better, just because it sort of keeps some of the noise away. Mike?
Am I shuffling?
Yes, your turn.
I agree with everything you said. I mean, I just think about, there's a certain type of person or a certain type of group that wants to deliver something that is perfect. And it's easy to get sort of seduced by achieving the perfect thing. And for, research and really brilliant genius minds, I mean, that's like their forte. They'll spend forever in research. And if they have money, like, why would they don't, delivering is not what like really drives them. It's like the discovery, the search is what drives them. So it sort of makes sense that they never get anywhere, or it takes them a long time. So and we sort of modeled Tellor after something completely different, whereas like, what can we iterate on and execute right away and launch right away and that sort of thing. So anyway, I don't think it's really a win-lose game, as we mentioned earlier. Okay, so next question is the SAFT or SAFE-T dead? This person's obviously asking about our fundraise.
Well, I think they might mean just in general, like, is anybody ever going to use it again?
Oh, no, oh, it just I didn't even think of it that way.
Yeah, so
Maybe.
the safety was so the SAFE is an agreement, the standard agreement for future equity. It's what's used for kind of small companies seeking fundraising from a VC. So you don't actually sell them equity, you sell them future equity whenever you actually issue it. Um, and the safety is the future agreement for equity and tokens, or just tokens. And it's what some people use as far as um, they were trying to get around SEC laws. So like, hey, if we have this agreement, a written agreement that you're buying my tokens and you understand that they're equity like, and you agree you're an accredited investor, then we can not go register with the SEC as a token. And so like we did a SAFT. That was our deal with Binance, was a SAFT. And you whatever, like there's been like no legal precedence that the SAFT is meaningful in any way, shape, or form. But people have just seemed to go with it. And yeah, there's, I guess it's just interesting because I don't know if it actually holds any legal precedence. So I think people are just starting to get rid of it. It's one of those things, like, we understand pretty clearly now what is equity and what is not. A lot of these things sort of dance on the edge, and most of them are just over the edge. So most of them are probably securities in the eyes of the SEC, and they just sort of said, "Fuck it, we're going to go for it." Um, and the SEC hasn't really come after people too much. So, and I think what people have started to realize is that whether you did a safety or a SAFT or just said "fuck it," the SEC is going to come after you either way. So it doesn't really matter which one you choose. So don't waste your money on a lawyer. Anyway.
Next question is, why is TRB so overpriced?
Yeah. Darn it. They're onto us.
Here, this will be
Yes.
this is our response.
Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man.
Yeah, no comment. Could you guys spin up a non-English Discord channel? Our community is internationalizing.
Somebody actually asked me that. I'm open to it. I've had some reservations though. If you seem like a trustworthy individual and you speak one of these languages and would like to moderate it, definitely let me know, because I've thought about, like, can I spin up a Russian one? Like, I have zero ability to moderate a Russian channel in our Discord. So I know Brenda speaks Spanish, so we can spin up a Spanish one. But yeah, like, as far as me spinning up other ones,
Like, I don't want to moderate that.
yeah, like, we sort of need trustworthy moderators in there as well. So if you want to be a Tellor moderator, which looks phenomenal on a resume, it's a great unpaid position that you can take. Just reach out to me.
Yeah, and moderating is really important for us to, maintain a certain level of professionalism on our official channels, whether they be in English or some other language. So we don't want to just open up a channel and just let it be,
Yeah, I mean, we're
chaos.
pretty lax with most of our channels. You can pretty much talk about whatever, but if you come on there and are scamming something or trying to convince people to go buy some other coin or something, like, if I can't speak the language, I have no ability to take those things down. So
Exactly. What do you guys think about work lock or stake drop distribution mechanisms?
So I Googled this right beforehand. This is where, like, I Googled this like 10 minutes ago. So you guys have to give me a break on my understanding of it. But it's basically like you put ETH into a stake. So like you stake it and then it's like locked for a year or two, and then it gets released to you. And this is supposed to incentivize people to do this, to only people who really like your project are going to get involved, or they have to do something in order to hold your token. And I think, yeah, I mean, it's okay. Ideally for us, like, I think a lot of those were just sort of to get around SEC regulations. Um, but some of those can be good, but it still doesn't sort of get around the idea that it could just still be a purely speculative venture. um, so I don't think it would get around any regulations. As far as building a community of people who actually care, I do think that some things like that and some lockup periods do make a lot of sense. I think also just having lower volume is better as well. Like, this is one of the things I talk about a lot with, like, the liquidity piece. If you don't have a way to sell your coin, you're sort of more incentivized to help out the protocol and to make sure that it does well, and um, things like that. And the other one of the big problems with, like, stake locks and things like that is that there's smart contract ways around it. So if you're going to have, like, an anonymous protocol, it's sort of hard to do some of those things. Because you can just sort of have a smart contract wrapper that holds those, and you can trade those around freely. So anyway, good ideas. I think those are, because I think one of the big problems in the space is that uh, you have a bunch of early stage companies with freely tradable equity, um, and it doesn't necessarily lead to long-term success.
Have VCs convinced too many teams to start layer ones? I don't know if it was VCs convincing them to start layer ones, or I guess if you were starting a layer one and someone gave you a crap ton of money, you'd be convinced it was a good idea. So maybe that happened.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the problems even with a lot of these coins. You see there's so many coins that are like, they should just be dead. The project the project isn't going anywhere, no one's developing on it, but the team still is on Twitter shilling it, or they're still promoting it. And the reason is that whenever there's so much money available, like, if you raise $50 million as a team, you're going to make sure that you spend every ounce of that money. You're not going to give it back. That's why the ideal situation would be like, you raise some money and then you actually have to deliver on something before you get more. You don't just raise all of this money and have it would be ridiculous for most small startups to think that, listen, we're going to raise money and have enough for 4 years. No, you would expect that we're going to raise enough. We're going to have a very lean year and a half. And if we don't deliver, we're out of business. And that's what I think the crypto space needs more of. It's just projects sort of folding. And but it's a good thing. I mean, having projects fold means that you sort of open up them to go to you open up that capital to move into other places, and you open up those developers and those kind of workers to move into other sectors. So it's sort of a bad thing that you have so many stagnant projects that just sort of take up workers.
Are you guys introverts or extroverts? Ever done any personality tests?
Brenda does the personality tests. We don't.
So, like, there's the Myers-Briggs. That's the big one. Myers-Briggs, introvert, extrovert, and I forget what the abbreviations are, but you're like INFJ, and they have different names for them. Like, one's called the architect, and the other one's the performer or the champion. They all have these different archetypes, and there's a lot of sort of, there's a whole subset of different brands of personality tests out there. I've done a Myers-Briggs, I think, at some point. I never hired anybody to, like, run me through it. I know a lot of people in that industry that are consultants that go into corporations or small businesses or individuals, CEOs, and you pay them a consultation fee, and they run you through this big, 2-hour long quiz about yourself. And you come up with this, this label for you that sort of explains, like, how you see the world. And this is supposed to help you understand yourself better, but understand how you work in teams and how you are as a leader and those kind of things. And I would say I'm answering what is my opinion of personality tests. Uh, I would
How
say
would
that
you rate us, Mike?
I don't know. I don't know what you guys are. I would say you guys are both. I don't know. I'm not going to even try. I just think that I found that they're useful to not sort of believe in them and that like they are the black and white truth about who you are, but you can get an insight about yourself. They're a great tool for reflection. That's how I feel that they're useful. I don't know. I guess I'm technically an extrovert. The way I always thought about the definition of those two is where do you get your energy? A lot of people think, am I outgoing or not? And that's how I define extrovert introvert. But it's more about what energizes you. Do you get energy from going out to a coffee shop and being amongst people, not even interacting with them, but just being around people? Then you're probably an extrovert. Doesn't mean you have to be outgoing and talk to everybody. You can be shy. Or do you get recharged from like retreating from people and just being at home? Or does like being home alone during this pandemic, does it really like sap you of energy? So my guess is a lot of extroverts have had a really hard time during this whole COVID thing, but I don't know. I always felt that I was somewhere in between. So there's that.
So if you're having a good time during the quarantine time, then you're an
Yeah.
introvert. That's
Then you
how it works.
probably an introvert.
Okay, so I think I'm an introvert. I'm gonna go with that.
I would say that's probably accurate. Nick, what do you think you are?
No comment. No idea. Yeah, maybe we'll do tests sometime, but
Yeah. Is it fair to say all crypto projects are startups? If so, why isn't the term startup used more in the industry? I would say yes, and I don't know why it's not used so much. I mean, I
I think it is.
feel like it is used.
Crypto startup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we feel that way because we've met so many crypto startups and we've talked to VCs and been in incubators and things like that. But like going back to like, you know, all these crap projects out there and what's true and just the sort of the marketing angles. And it's hard to tell, you know, these companies look like big companies when they're really just really, you know, young crypto startups that maybe raised some money and sort of bloated it out, or they have this fake facade of a larger thing. So they don't want to say startup because it doesn't bode well if you're just a little startup that raised a lot of money and hasn't delivered anything yet. Skipping that, repeat. Nick, this is for you. What do you think about roll-ups? ZK or optimistic?
They look really cool. So roll-ups are sort of a scaling method. So you can have a way to, you know, similar to like how Plasma was supposed to work, where you have a list of transactions and then you check them back into the main chain and validate everything that happened on them. And it's definitely a much more, I guess, honest way in that, like, so scaling, you know, it's not going to 100x your throughput. It's going to, you know, more like 2 to 3 times or something. But some of these roll-ups, yeah, some of the big issues with, I think IDEX is rolling out a ZK roll-up exchange, which should be super cool. So it'll help. It's just anytime you sort of deal with new technology, it's making sure that it works properly is hard, and then also just at the same point getting the user experience a lot better. You know, because especially like even when it comes to like Lightning Network for Bitcoin payments and things like that, it's really tough because now you don't need Bitcoin, you need like Lightning Bitcoin, and it abstracts it and it's weird, like how am I supposed to be using this? And you know, like with ZK rollups, like, you know, like if I'm going to save 5 seconds or, you know, 5 cents on my Ethereum transaction, like, is it really worth the extra layer of complexity for the user? Maybe not. You know, because that's one of those things that people have always been super excited about scaling pieces, but, you know, I don't know, is sort of our inability to scale what's holding people back? Is that what's holding us back from adoption? You know, if we scaled 10x, I don't think that would instantly push us towards mass adoption. I just don't. I think it's probably some other issues about what we're using these for and finding some demand for them.
Are you guys aware that TRB stands for the real Bitcoin? Well, you heard it here, folks. I was not aware, but it could stand for a lot of things. We think it stands for tributes. Are you in contact with anyone from Binance to get Tellor listed on Binance Pool? Yeah, we just we reached out right away, and basically what we know is Binance Pool is going to spend a couple months just with, I think, Bitcoin mining, maybe Bitcoin and Ethereum, and they're going to work out their own kinks for a while before they open up to any sort of altcoins or including tributes. So yeah, we're definitely very much in close contact with people over there about it. So have you approached what to mine to list Tellor? Yes, we actually just sent out an application today. So I don't know what the vetting process for that is. It was the shortest application, you know, that we've ever done. So I don't know. It doesn't seem like they really vet too deeply, but we'll let you know. Hopefully we get listed on there. What do you think of Telegram versus the SEC? I'll defer to you, Nick.
Yeah, go SEC. I don't know. I mean, it was like it's obviously a centralized company that did a token sale that didn't even release their token. It was sort of bad practice all around, and they raised so much money on it, and it's weird because, you know, Telegram, like, they got a legitimate use case. They like have a product market fit and everything like that, and then they issued a token. It was just it just doesn't make any sense to me. You know what I mean? Like, it's weird. Like, maybe they couldn't have done that without a token, but I couldn't have imagined, like, with how many users that they had and just even the VC space over the time, like, that they couldn't have just raised $1 billion the legitimate way. Just by raising VC equity. Like, I don't know why they needed to do the token sale. So yeah, it was weird all around. And you know, I think the SEC will probably bring the hammer down on them, which is what happens to Telegram. I don't know. We'll see.
I'm just happy that Telegram has finally implemented folders. So I'm very, very happy with Telegram right now. If you didn't know, there's folders now, so you can organize some of the chaos on your Telegrams. It's amazing. Did Bitcoin choose to give job security to a small number of devs, e.g. Blockstream, instead of truly embracing open source development?
I don't think Bitcoin chose to do anything. You know, it was sort of this technology, and there weren't people there. So MIT sort of, I think the MIT is the people who publicly fund a lot of it. So they have a few researchers that they keep on payroll there for Bitcoin, and then Blockstream came about, and they hired a lot of those guys and figured out ways to sort of make money along the ways. And I think that's, you know, Bitcoin's kind of governance issues and all of the struggles with the direction of Bitcoin is super interesting, because you had this sort of it shows the dangers of the headless protocol. Whenever you have these sort of power vacuums in place, you know, and you can relate it to even like foreign policy related in the real world, when no one is there to sort of be in charge or take control, then, you know, usually some strong demagogue takes hold and forces them to do something. Or in the case of Blockstream, you have corporations that start running the thing for their own kind of personal interests, and there's a lot of propaganda involved all the way through. And I think you saw that over the years with Bitcoin, with the power vacuum that had sort of generated there. You know, which is actually one of the reasons I really like kind of Ethereum, because Ethereum, we went for less of the power. You know, there is no Satoshi figure that's just absent and gone. We have Vitalik, who we sort of treat with this deity like virtue. But it's in a way good, because he sort of hasn't sort of overstepped his power and caused too much rife within the system. So we have there's not like, you know, there's not this power vacuum where some system or corporation can come in, and we sort of seem to have this honest leader who won't be corrupt by it. I'm guessing we'd all turn on him in an instant, though, if he tried to sell out. But it would be, you know, it seems like that sort of kept some of those issues away, because I think you see, like, you know, with a lot of the other coins, some of the failures of it, like whether it's Tezos or some of especially the professor coins and things like that, when too many VCs get involved and too much money gets involved, it gets hard. Anyway, yeah, never mind. This is a weird AMA. It's like all about VCs and Bitcoin and the history. So
They're all over the place.
yeah.
We're just three more. Best books you've read recently. We actually just our little meeting this morning between the three of us. We were talking about books that we're currently reading. I mean,
Yeah.
I'll start. I'm currently reading Magician of the Gods by Graham Hancock. It's about lost civilizations. It's about the idea that there was a cataclysmic event at the end of the last ice age, and a high civilization that was completely wiped out and lost to history, and the evidence for this sort of thing. So it's been really fascinating. I've also been I'm into fantasy novels, so I really like Robin Hobb. For those of you that read fantasy, I've read all of the Farseer trilogy and the trilogies after that. I'm on the last trilogy, so I've read 9 of those books, and I really recommend them to any of you guys that haven't checked out Robin Hobb. Check out; she's an amazing author.
So me, yeah. So 3 books I finished quarantine. I did finished The Fear and Loathing on the Campaign Trail. It was a Hunter Thompson book back in the 70s. If you're a Hunter Thompson fan, it's fun. Then I read Elaine de Botton, On Love, fiction book, give you guys some emotional intelligence. And then I'm just finishing up 23 Things They Don't Tell You About Capitalism by Ha-Joon Chang. It's a Ha-Joon Chang. He has tons of YouTube series. He's a great economist out there. He hates every system, but he fairly critiques them all really, really well. Mainly even, you know, so I came from the Austrian economist, very libertarian, free market background, and I've since like moved towards having more realistic views on things than pure anarchy. And he's sort of he has some nice balances about just looking at things about, you know, kind of fairly, and that there is no sort of free markets do really well, but then the same points they have their drawbacks, and you can also build better incentives into the system. So
cool. Can Tellor submit to be supported or listed on Ledger Wallet? I believe we are supported on Ledger Live. We definitely did all that many months ago.
Yeah, we submitted all the applications and stuff. So if we're not, that's on them, not us.
Yeah, someone in the chat confirmed. Pretty sure that we are. If not, I'll work it out. Very last question. They're about incentivized test nets. Are incentivized test nets giving a false sense of security to new projects? I.e., you think you're battle testing your chain before launch, but in reality, you're just ensuring your network is dependent on a very limited number of professional validators.
Yeah, I mean, it's incentivized test nets are okay. At the same time, you can also just use those things that you were going to use to pay to incentivize your test nets to just go get an audit, or an extra audit or something, and then just get live. I think the best way.
We explored. Remember, we didn't really.
Yeah.
We considered it briefly, doing the testnet thing and having those tokens port over.
Yeah, I mean, it's just just get live as soon as possible. Like, what's the difference? Like, a lot of times people are like, oh, well, like if you have to fork or something, then so be it. But yeah, I mean, getting live actually is where the true incentives are. Because especially with token networks or something like that, like it's never truly a test net. It's never truly incentivizing people in the right way. Like having somebody just run a miner on your system, but dealing with fake money, that you can revert at any given time, or it just doesn't have the same sort of feeling to it as a main net. And, like whenever we launched, like we ran on testnet for like 2 months beforehand, but then once you switched over to mainnet and you had to start dealing with gas costs and just intermittent sort of breakdowns in kind of throughput, we had to change some things in Tellor that we didn't foresee, and you wouldn't have foreseen that on a test net. So just kind of getting live. And the other thing, if you have a lot of these people that do incentivized test networks, then they have these like market caps already built in when you launch, and that actually is worse because you want to like launch on your main net with as little value in it as possible, just assuming that like you're going to run into some little hiccup along the way. And the only way that you're going to really get all those hiccups out is being live on mainnet. So anyway.
Yeah, because you start off giving yourself a hole to dig, and then you just end up having a bunch of bag holders that are underwater. I think if we would have done the incentivized testnet route, I bet you we would have stayed on it for a long time. And we would have started to upgrade things while we're on testnet. And it would have just strung that 2 months out to probably more like 6 months, which I don't think would have been necessarily a good thing. Because like you said, as soon as we launched the mainnet, it's a whole host of unique problems.
Yep. So.
Well, that's it for questions. Thanks for your submissions again, everybody. We really appreciate it. There were a few repeats we didn't get to. We'll probably give some of those repeat questions a little bit of breathing room before we answer them again. But those were just the usuals that you've all heard before.
Yeah, thanks for listening, everyone. Look forward to talking to you guys next week. Hopefully you guys can make it to my talk on Friday night. Looking for you there.
Yes, be there and be square.
All right. Talk to you guys later.
Bye.